and welcome to this month's Leading the Way. This month's series, we're going to focus on the May primary election coming up. I'm here with Gene Daughtry, the chairman of the Polk County Republican Committee. Gene, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely, Spree. I'm glad to be here. I want to help everybody understand what's coming up.
And that is exactly why you are here, is we're going to educate to make people more aware of what the primary election is all about. So to get started, just kind of expand on that topic. What is the importance of the May primary election?
The May primary election, the primary is set up to help decide who is going to be running in the general election. That is the reason that you have it is because we have multiple people choosing to run for a position of the same party. And even though I am the Republican chairman, this is a nonpartisan conversation about there are Republicans running for, multiple Republicans running for a particular seat. The tax assessor, for example, we have 3 Republicans running for that seat. You have a primary so that the Republicans can choose who they like of the 3 to run in the general election that comes in November. It's the same with the presidents. Most people realize that there's 4 presidential Republican candidates and they're running. They're having primaries all over the country so the states can decide for themselves which one of those they want to represent them on the general ballot. And so that's what the primary is for. And this year is a little bit unique for Republicans because we never have had need for primary races. This year there's a lot of Republicans running for many seats, and the most important thing to learn from this is that there are people in our county that will only have the primary to choose who's going to represent them. There's only Republicans running, there's multiple. They have to choose in May or they won't have a choice because in November the election, those people will not be in the election.
Just like you said, the tax assessor race is actually compiled of only Republicans running for that. So that race will be decided in the May primary.
Absolutely.
Correct?
May 22nd, they will have the primary. There's 3 of them. It could cause a runoff. The winner has to get 50% of the votes. And so there may be a runoff in June because of the 3 dividing the votes up. But yes, the person that's going to be the Polk County tax assessor is going to be decided in this primary, not in November.
Now, kind of tell the audience, when they walk in to vote for the primary election, they will be asked which ballot they want. Kind of expand on that and tell them what that means.
Well, what that means is you're declaring which party you're here to represent or vote for. It doesn't necessarily mean you are a Republican or are a Democrat. You are interested in voting for the people that are running for the seat that are out there, the seats that are out there. If you choose a Republican ballot, that's what you will get. All of the Republicans in the contested Republican races or the primary Republican races where you have the multiple Republicans for one seat. If you go in and ask for a Democratic ballot, it'll be the same thing. The presidential race will be at the top of that. If you want to vote for one of the Republican presidential candidates, you'll have to ask for a Republican ballot.
Now, if they were asked for a Democrat ballot, there's only a few races that are going to be on that ballot, contested races.
Absolutely, yeah. There's only, I think, just a couple of constable races that are where there's 2 Democrats running for the same seat. There are Democrats, of course, running for a lot of the other seats, but there's not 2 Democrats running for any of them, and so there'll only be a couple of constable races for the Democrat, and of course the presidential race is the one presidential candidate. So there isn't a lot of primary action for the Democrats except for one item, and that is the judicial races. And I know we're going to discuss that a little more in a bit, but that's a very important segment, and it is something that is only going to happen in the May primary race, is voting for the judges for the different judgeships in the state of Arkansas, and that's an important thing. So Democrats have something to come out and vote for, and the key of this entire conversation is the May elections are very important because there's some races you're not going to get to vote on in November.
Now, it's important to remember that however you vote in the primary election, if there is a runoff, that is how you must vote in the runoff.
Absolutely.
As well, right?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
Also, this year there's been a lot of changes. Redistricting happened, which happens every 10 years.
Right.
But that also caused a lot of polling locations to change as well. Explain I know there's been a lot of residents a little curious to why are all these changes happening. Kind of expand on that.
Well, the reason that we're having the changes is because of the census. It's been required since I believe it's part of the Constitution, the Founding Fathers, the census be taken every 10 years. And that is to take a note, because it's a republic government, and so you are represented by people that you choose. In order to make it fair, which representative or how many representatives there are for any given area, they have the census every 10 years. And so in Pope County, the census is decided that there were 63,000 people, I believe, for the whole county. You divide that up into the 13 JP districts that we have, and you had to have 4,700 people in each one of the 13 districts. So they are like bubbles, and they had to move in order to get the lines where there's 4,700 in each of these new districts in the county. And the same thing for the precincts. The precincts are based upon the map and the counties and the Senate seats, and they move the districts around, or the precincts around, so that there are voting locations within so many of the population. There's a voting location that you can access near your home. The entire intent, of course, is for it to be as easy as possible for folks to go and exercise the right to vote. And so there are precincts that are way out in kind of smaller rural areas, but it's so that those people can get to that voting precinct with as little trouble as possible.
Now, there are a lot of options when it comes to voting. There's early voting that actually starts on May 7th, and then there is absentee voting if it's just too much to actually get out and vote. How would you stress to residents the importance of, no matter how you do it, just make sure you vote?
How to stress it is the fact that it is a right of all citizens to vote. There's a lot of that word going around. The word right but this is truly a right of an American citizen to vote. The one thing that I will stress is people need to realize that, honestly, hundreds of thousands of Americans have died to keep this right available for you. I mean, that may sound dramatic, but it truly is a true statement. And it's very important. If you want a particular view expressed at the Quorum Court, at City Hall, in Little Rock, or in Washington, D.C., you have to get out here and exercise your right as to who that person's going to be to represent you. It may seem you only got one vote and there's thousands and it doesn't matter, but that is not true. There have been races in this county decided by 2 or 3 people. And so it is critical that you get out there and you exercise that right, and so that your opinion is heard, and that the people that represent you, at least you made the effort to get the person voted in that you wanted to have elected.
Now, what is some basic voter information that people should be aware of before they walk in that day to vote? I know they received voter registration cards in the mail recently. Mm-hmm. They are being told to bring those with them if they think of it, just so that the way they know exactly what district they're in when they go to vote. What are some tips that you would give people?
Bring an identification card of some kind, and definitely know your address, and have decided, are you going to vote Republican, are you going to vote Democrat? And be patient. We have a very nice election facility. It's in the on 1509 East Main Street is the primary central location in Russellville, where the National Home Center parking lot's at. And you go in there, and you may have to wait in a short line, but they have a very good setup. It's very efficient. There have been recounts in the last 2 or 3 election cycles, and they have been perfect, so that you can be very confident that Pope County runs a very good election program. The commission is very good at what they do, but come prepared to show an ID, know your address, and their job, the poll workers' job, is to confirm that you're voting in the right precinct. And they're going to ask you those questions to make sure that your vote counts. Now, if you come into the election commission office, or you go into your precinct office out in the area, and you go in there and you're in the wrong place, they can't identify you, they can't confirm your address is the right place, you can still vote on a provisional ballot. So you have that right to vote either way. If you're even in the wrong place, you just ask for a provisional ballot. The poll worker knows exactly what to do, and they'll fill that out. And what they do then is they save that provisional ballot until it can be confirmed that you are supposed to be voting here, and then your vote will count along with everyone else's. So be prepared, have your ID, and have a little bit of patience, and know what your thinking is on voting before you come in. But definitely come down here and vote.
Now, I know you have a newly redistricted map here with you today.
Yes, I do.
Tell me a little bit about that, and a little bit about the JP races coming up.
The JP race is coming up. There are 13 Justice of the Peace districts in our county. And with the census and the change, the districts changed quite a bit. Actually, they did. And in those races, of the 13 races that there are Republicans, Democrats, and independents that are running for difference of these seats. Some of them we are going to have primary races, which is the main crux of what we're talking about. Two of the districts, District number 7 and District number 3, have got 2 Republicans running. And the folks in District 7 and District 3, their only chance to choose who represents them is in the May election. They won't be running in November because it'll already be decided in May. So if you want to vote for your JP in District 7 and District 3, you'll have to vote in May. And District 3 is the district that's over there on the east part of the county. And it's a large orange area on the map, and it's changed from what it was previously, but it's just north of Pottsville, and but Pottsville is not in District 3. And there's 2 gentlemen that are running for that, and we're going to have them in to interview, and you'll be able to hear what they have to say and what their positions are. Through the same video series here at River Valley Leader, and so I advise you to do that. We'll have all that up and posted soon. Spree's going to work on that. But then District 7 is over just north of 40. It's a narrow strip that runs just north of 40, right against the Bayou, Pleasant View Park, but it's south of Dover, so it's a fairly narrow strip there. Same thing, 2 Republicans running for that seat. And if you want to choose the person that's going to represent you in quorum court, you got to vote in May. And so our early voting starts on May the 7th. The actual election day is May the 22nd. And I just urge everyone to get out and vote for that. And that is the only time you'll get to choose those 2 districts.
And that's very important to keep that in mind, that if you want your vote heard or your opinion heard, it's important to get out there and vote. Now, you start talking about a little bit about important dates coming up. Can you tell me a little bit more about important dates that people really need to keep in mind for this election?
The most important thing that they need to keep in mind for this election is you must register to vote by April the 23rd if you want to vote on the May 22nd primary. That's the first thing that's coming up. May the 7th is the next important date, and that's the first day of early voting. And so from May the 7th until May the 22nd, you can early vote at your normal precincts, go in and vote, and then May the 22nd will be Election Day. So those are the most important dates. If we end up in a runoff, which the one position that could take place in that I know of is a tax assessor, where you have 3 Republicans and one of them's got to get 50% of the vote. That could turn into a runoff. If that runoff comes up, it'll take place in June. And I don't have that date right in front of me. Yes, I do. I take that back. I say June the 12th. So it'll be June the 12th. It'll be the primary runoff election day. I don't know if that'll take place, but there's a good chance that it might because of the tax assessor, and everyone will have to come out and vote just for the tax assessor seat. So, but it's a little bit unique this year, especially for the Republicans, for having so many primary races.
And now early voting is actually all at the election headquarters. I think that's where early voting all takes place.
That I believe you're correct about that. I may have misstated that. So yeah, you come down to 1509 East Main Street, the National Home Center parking lot. That's where everybody knows, and go to the Election Commission office and for the early voting, which is the only way that I voted. Go down and it's not as crowded, and you can get in and out real quick.
You can also go after work. They're open until I think 6 or so on weekdays, and so that way people work till 5. They can stop by after work, and I even noticed there's even Saturday voting this year. So I think that it's, that's very good for residents who are busy during the week. It also gives them another option that they can also vote on a Saturday if they need to.
That is great. And that is the thing that we're stressing here is it's important to vote in the primary, to get your representation, but voting period, that is the number one thing. It's a right that you have. I think that it's an obligation that you have, and it's something that is we're making it, or they are making it as easy as they possibly can for you to come down and exercise that right. And it may seem a little, I don't know what the right word is, strange, goofy. You feel a little bit of sense of accomplishment to come and vote, and so that when the conversation comes up later, you participated. I remember voting in the presidential election in 2000, and it was really the first time that I'd looked into it a little bit and got involved and went down and voted for. I knew the names on the ballot, and it was a sense of accomplishment from doing that. So, that may sound a little bit goofy, naive, or whatever, but really and truly, it's something that is, as an American, you should do, you should want to do, and we want you to know that in May, the primary election is very important, and there are some people that are only going to get to vote for the person that represents them in May.
Anything else you want to add before we bring in our next guest to talk a little bit more about this?
No, I think that we covered everything pretty well. As long as the message gets out there, I, of course, want folks to vote Republican, but we can talk about that at another time, and just want to make sure that everyone views this series of the candidates. There's a lot of ways for people to get to know their candidates. I think that this is going to be a great way for everyone to get to hear what their candidates think on particular subjects, and see them and hear them close up, and have them have people make a good decision about who they want to have represent them. And this is a great way to do it and kind of get to know them and get to see their faces, and it's not in a big room, with a lot of people crowding around. It'll be more intimate this way.
Well, I think that's what it's all about. We all have our own opinions. We all want people to vote probably the way we want to, but I think it's all about being educated on what you're voting for and who you're voting for before you walk in. I think that is just so important.
I think it is. Yeah, you're right.
And we hope to help educate people on that as well.
That's what we're here for, is to help everybody learn and know what's going on. And it is this is a great service, I think, and that's what I want everyone to do, is find out who represents you and learn a little bit about them and go down and vote.
All right, Gene, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
No problem.